You're a murderer mistress, murderer. You're worthless.
The nearly 6-year legal saga of the Doomsday Cult mom finally comes to an end.
But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison.
Lori Vallow Daybell is going to prison for life after hearing from the loved ones of the people she murdered in the name of God.
It's because you're a sideshow freak, a murderous carnival act.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Lori Vallow Daybell is now officially a 4-time convicted murderer. She has been sentenced in Maricopa County, Arizona, for the murder of her estranged husband, Charles Vallow, and the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, the ex-husband of her niece, Melanie. The sentencing hearing was incredibly emotional. After nearly 6 years of living in unspeakable grief, pain, and fear, the survivors of Lori Daybell's trail of destruction got their chance to let the judge know what she had put them through, how she had used the word of God and Mormonism, perverted it to suit her own needs and justify her murderous actions. She killed children and the man she vowed to love till death do us part. It's so sick and twisted. It really takes a lot to wrap your head around all of it. The first victim in Lori and Chad Daybell's twisted plan to kill was Charles Vallow. In August of 2019, Lori's brother Alex Cox shot and killed Charles in a home where Lori was living in Chandler. Cox claimed self-defense, of course, but we know it wasn't. In September 2019, Tylee Ryan, Lori's daughter, was murdered in Rexburg, Idaho, followed by JJ Vallow, the autistic son Lori adopted with Charles. In October, Alex Cox fired a shot at Brandon Boudreaux, except Alex Cox missed when he fired at Brandon. Thank goodness. But Brandon, he was still traumatized and is forever scarred by what he has been through. And then Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, she was murdered in her home in Idaho by Chad Daybell. And of course, Lori was a part of that. Alex Cox died of natural causes back in December of 2019, so he was never charged. Lori and Chad, of course, took off for Hawaii after all of this, thinking they had gotten away with murder, collecting Social Security checks for JJ and Tylee, but they were delusional. They would eventually be charged in Idaho with murdering JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. And they were convicted. Lori was tried in Arizona this past spring for the conspiracy to murder Charles. She represented herself, and it was an absolute disaster. There's no other way to put it. She was convicted swiftly. Then came the trial for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Again, Lori represented herself, and again, she was convicted. And now, she has been sentenced in Arizona. She's already serving 3 life sentences in Idaho.
Good morning. This is the time set for sentencing. State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell.
State is ready to proceed.
Is the defendant ready to proceed?
Yes.
Now, Lori's oldest child, Colby Ryan, he addressed Judge Boreski via Zoom. His stepfather was Joe Ryan, one of Lori's husbands, but he also considered Charles Vallow his father, too.
Not only are my father, sister, and brother gone, but so is my mother. Starting 6 years ago, the horror began. During the middle of my workday, I was alerted that my father had passed away from a heart attack. I spent the whole day at work in shock. I spoke to my mother and felt that I needed to come and stop by after my shift. After a long conversation, she hesitantly agreed. When I arrived at her house, I found out that what she had told me previously about the heart attack was not the case. My father had been shot and killed in what was labeled self-defense. I saw how my sister fell into my stomach with her emotions and sobbed. My brother JJ was asleep. Afterwards, I came home to my wife, and our young baby sat on the floor and completely broke down. My life would never be the same.
Colby didn't just lose a father. He lost his siblings, JJ and Tylee.
Here's the reality. Neither Tylee nor JJ had time to even process or grieve. My mother, Lori Vallow, moved them out of state, and only a couple of weeks later, little did we know that my little sister, Tylee, only had 60 days before she would meet the same fate. My little sister must have been so scared, confused, anxious, and broken, and angry, and every emotion you could think of. My little brother JJ would only have 74 days before he met the same fate. He must have been confused, worried, sad, and frustrated without the ability to fully comprehend his feelings. I know I'm here to tell you the effect that this has had on me. In simple terms, each one of my family members was taken from us all in one swoop. My father was gone in an instant, and later my sister and brother disappeared until they were later found in Lori Vallow's new husband's backyard.
Lately, I've been seeing some really amazing makeup trends on social media, but no matter the trend, I feel like there's always that one brand you come back to. For me, it's Thrive Cosmetics. And honestly, I'm really excited that they're sponsoring Crime Fix because I've been using them for a while now. Thrive makes 100% vegan, cruelty-free products that are clean, high performance, and made to last, from everyday basics to bold, expressive looks. And what I really love about Thrive, they give back. For every product you buy, they donate to communities in need, from women facing cancer or homelessness to survivors of abuse. They've donated more than $150 million so far. And the first time I tried Thrive's Brilliant Eye Brighteners, I told myself I would never go back to using other eyeshadow products. They go on so smoothly and they don't flake off. Right now, Muna and Sophia, these two right here, are my absolute favorite shades. Discover your new trusty favorite from Thrive Cosmetics, luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/crimefix. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/crimefix for 20% off your first order. Now, if you followed the case, you know that JJ was the grandson of Charles's sister, Kay Woodcock, and her husband, Larry. Charles and Lori adopted JJ and raised him as their own until Lori conspired to murder Charles and then murder JJ. Larry Woodcock, he didn't hold back.
Truly wish I was there to look the murderers in the eyes. I'm unable to. I will say this. Murderers, you're nothing. You're a murderer. You're a narcissist, psychopath, delusional murderer. I can't tell you the harm that you have caused to our family, but I will tell you this. I know where you're going to be till you die. You're going to be in an 8x6 cell. You're going to have a steel cot. You're going to have a 12x8 desk and a stainless steel toilet. You will have 23 hours a day in there. I hope you spend the rest of your life 23 hours a day regretting your choices, because that's all it was, murderers. It was your choices. You made them. You and your husband, if that's what you want to call him.
Larry lost a brother-in-law and a grandchild and a sense of security, and he let Lori know exactly what he thinks about her.
To Todd. Look at Todd. Turn around and look at him, Lori, because that's the last time you're ever going to hear my name out of your mouth. Look at Todd. Have you said you're sorry? You wrapped JJ's hands in tape. You wrapped his arms in tape. You covered his eyes. And you buried him in 8 inches of ground. Murderous! May God have mercy on your soul, because that's the only thing in life. And don't count on God where you're going. You're nothing, murderous. I can't stand you. I always said, from out of some place you never saw came a sound you never heard. Well, I will not say that anymore. I want you to see and hear everything that's going to happen in your life. I want you to live it 23 hours a day. I despise you. You murdered JJ. You murdered Tammy. I'll always believe you murdered Alex. You're a murderer mistress, murderer. You're worthless.
Now, I'll get to Larry's wife and Charles's sister, Kay, in just a moment. But first, let's hear from one of Charles's other sisters, Susan.
My brother's death was a deliberate act of evil and self-seeking financial gain. Your greed has caused so much pain to this day. How could you do such an evil and intentional harm and take my brother's life for money, lust, and power? The pain you caused in having to relive this nightmare, all because you didn't want Charles anymore. He didn't die from cancer or an accident. He was young and had a beautiful life left to live. You took that away. You planned and calculated his death. There isn't a day that goes by I haven't thought of this tragedy which you caused. I will never have another birthday, holiday, or other celebrations in life with my brother. Charles was victimized at the hands of you, Lori, and your accomplices. To do this to Charles, to receive money, is sickening. I am disgusted and truly appalled by your evil, selfish, and reprehensible actions. You will miss out on wearing nice clothes, driving what was once your Range Rover, thick, juicy steaks, barbecues, and no more quiet, no more freedom, only rules. I have forgiven you, Lori. When Jesus calls me home, I don't want any of this on my soul. Thank you.
Now let's hear from Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother. She trusted Lori to love and care for JJ, and at every turn she lied to Kay and she stole the life of her grandson. And Lori orchestrated, of course, the murder of her big brother, Charles.
Your Honor, I stand before you today to honor Charles, my big brother. This courtroom is where Charles finally receives the justice he fought for and never saw in life. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Charles was more than my brother. He was the backbone of our family. He was steady, loyal, and endlessly generous. He was the kind of man who showed up for everyone without ever asking for anything in return. When you walked into the room with Charles, you felt safe, you felt valued, and that's what makes this all so unbearable, because the very person who should have cherished him the most, his own wife, betrayed him in the cruelest, most calculated way imaginable. Charles was a protector by nature, the man who would give you the shirt off his back and then ask what else he could do to help. He loved fiercely, laughed easily, and built his life around the simple but powerful values of family, faith, and hard work. It feels right that this trial comes after those for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, because he was a true Southern gentleman. I know he would have told us to take care of them first.
Then Kay turned to address Lori directly, but that's not allowed. But that didn't stop her from letting Lori have it. Take a look.
Lori. First, let me say this. Charles is not your husband. I can't do that. You have to address the court. Okay. Sorry. Charles is not your husband. Your disgusting co-monster, Chad, is. The Miss Texas pageant, Wheel of Fortune, Extra on Modern Family, July 31st, 2023. What do they all have in common? They're all days that failed to make you famous or idolized. Infamous? Yes, but never famous, never idolized. You spent your entire life chasing cameras, applause, and validation like oxygen, but here you are, exposed, convicted, stripped of the lies you wrapped yourself in. All your interviews, all your attempts to manipulate, triangulate, and control the narrative, even the one released just last night, have failed. The world sees what I saw in 2019 when you abandoned Charles, Colby, Tylee, and JJ to chase that grotesque shadow of a man, Chad Daybell. You call yourself a mother, a wife, a woman of God. You are none of these things. You are a liar, a fraud, and a murderer. Did you think you could charm your way out of this? Do you believe people can't see through the lies? Do you honestly think that you are smarter, holier, or more special than everyone else? You are not. You are an ordinary, plain, run-of-the-mill, middle-aged woman.
Now, this really had to sting Lori because she believes that she's anointed by a higher power. At least that's what she tells herself. Kay continued.
You didn't just take our loved ones. You sparked a tragedy that now affects countless families. They understand. They were there, and they worked tirelessly to bring you to justice. Chandler PD never believed you. They didn't charge you immediately because they were busy untangling your web of deception. So you can continue making claims that no one understands because we weren't there. But make no mistake, we stand perfectly. We understand premeditation. We understand conspiracy. We understand fraud, insurance policies, and false alibis. We understand how long bodies lay in the ground while you danced, vacationed, and manipulated for attention. We understand the cost, emotional, financial, spiritual, that all of us have paid to clean up the wreckage of your delusion. Therapy, lost work, trauma, panic attacks, courtrooms and funerals, ashes and empty chairs. You are so selfish, so pathologically self-centered that you can't even see the shockwaves you created in every life around you. Webster's dictionary defines tragedy as a disastrous event. What happened to my family is precisely that, a series of disastrous events, each one engineered by you. You and Chad built a religion of narcissism, two people drunk on the fantasy of being special, chosen, above the law, above humanity itself. You labeled people as dark to justify murder. You wrapped evil in scripture and called it faith. You and Chad murdered your children and spouses and then hid behind a veil of lies. You are not exalted. You are not translated. You are a manipulator, a parasite, and a coward.
Kay's statement continued, and I must say, it got even better.
You have no remorse. Your deflection is disgusting. Your interviews are manipulative. Your faith is counterfeit. You still talk as if you're somehow misunderstood. No, wrong. You're fully understood. We see who you are, a manipulator, a liar, and a destroyer. And the worst thing is, Charles loved you. He protected you, and you repaid him with betrayal and bullets. You left him dead on the floor and then went shopping for flip-flops and a new life with your apocalyptic con man. You tried to erase him, stealing his phone, twisting the narrative, and lying to anyone who would listen. But the truth doesn't lie, Lori, and now the truth has destroyed you. Lori, you have noticed this courtroom is full. It's not because people admire you. It's not because they see instrument in God's hands. It's because you're a sideshow freak, a murderous carnival act. People come to gawk at the monster who thinks she's divine.
Wow. Then it was time for Brandon Boudreaux and his family to address the court. His current wife, Jenny Boudreaux, talked about the toll the attempted murder plot has taken on Brandon.
That weight, that moment is still and always will be heavy in our lives. He has survivor's guilt. He sometimes wondered why he survived and the others did not. He would say I would switch places with Charles, with JJ, with Tylee, and even Tammy so that they could live. This is the kind of person Brandon is. He would do anything for the people he loves. Brandon carries emotional scars of attempted murder, betrayal, and loss every day. And yet he remains kind. He remains faithful, and he remains a father that his children are proud of. Today, I am proud to stand beside him as his wife, his best friend, and a witness of his resilience and his courage. The truth has finally come to light. And although it has taken many years to get here, I pray that justice will be served properly. Evil tried to silence Brandon, but it failed. He is still here.
And then Brandon Boudreaux, the man who by the grace of God survived the murder attempt, spoke to Judge Boreski.
Had this heinous crime succeeded, my children would have been left to face a lifetime of grief, robbed of the love, stability, and spiritual guidance I provide as their father. The betrayal by someone connected to my family has left me battling overwhelming emotions over the years. I felt fear, paranoia. I lived with constant vigilance, loneliness, regret, sadness, depression, anger, heartache, and embarrassment. All while striving to remain a beacon for my children I didn't want them to see. The word family in Latin was used as a word for servant, familia. How beautiful to think of those who are family as those who we serve or who serve us freely without the thought of reward. I try to live this truth every day, serving my children with selfless dedication, nurturing their dreams, teaching them resilience, and providing a foundation of love. Lori Daybell's actions sought to tear me from the sacred role, leaving my children without the father who serves them with unwavering devotion. Trust is something that is intangible. It can almost, excuse me. It can almost be measured in interactions with others by the speed and comfort with which we speak. We can see this inside our families. When it's present, it creates beautiful, safe spaces where human beings can grow and feel loved. As a father, I strive to cultivate this trust, fostering a haven where my children feel secure to grow and express themselves. Had I been killed, this trust would have been shattered, leaving my children vulnerable to fear, uncertainty, and struggling to rebuild the safety that they deserve.
Brandon talked about what life would have been like had he been murdered.
My children would have faced these scars and many more. Their sense of security would have been destroyed. The violent act orchestrated by Lori would have taken this. Additionally, children who lose a parent experience academic setbacks, social withdrawal. Studies show that such children face socioeconomic challenges as adults, threatening the stable future I work tirelessly to provide. Besides my children, I have extended family for whom this conspiracy's toll I will never truly know. There's no measurement system for our grief, for our stress, for their pain and their trauma. They carry a burden that was no responsibility of their own. They're good people, all of them. But they showed up. They understood what family meant. They postponed work. They postponed life. They postponed fun. They even put out their own children and their own spouses. I had to ask them, and their families to keep me safe and put them in jeopardy. I was scared to stay with them for months.
Then Brandon discussed Lori's complete lack of shame and remorse.
But I have never seen any remorse or acknowledgement from Lori or any of her conspirators. Only denial, shaming, and accusation. I would never feel safe if she has freedom. I will always fear her for what she would try to do, again, to hurt my family. The trauma of this attack has already shaken my children's sense of safety. It's forced me to fight through pain, and it's forced me to work to restore trust for them in this life that we live. Lori's conspiracy was an assault on the essence of familia or selfless love. It's an assault on trust, and it's an assault on the divine sanctity of what a family is and what I grew up in. I would urge you to recognize this harm, this act that was intended to inflict pain upon myself, my family, my children, who deserve to grow up in a sacred, safe space. And I would ask you to protect us. As I let go of those angry feelings and all of those things, I would ask you to protect us, keep us safe, keep these people who deserve it safe. And I just ask that and thank you.
And then Lori got the chance to address the court, and she references the founding fathers. You won't want to miss this. Check it out.
Before this long court journey, I only had basic understanding of the judicial process. I was of the understanding that both parties would be able to get up at a trial and each tell their side of the story, but I soon learned that the rules of law do not allow that.
Actually, they do.
The process is much more complex than that. It is not designed for that, although the Constitution of the United States was designed for that. The rules of law negate most of that. As a defendant, I was precluded from calling several witnesses. Other witnesses for the defense were precluded from testifying things that they did witness. As a defendant, I was precluded from asking law enforcement specific questions. I was also precluded from admitting documents that the state turned over to the defense as discovery. The founding fathers of this country did not intend for the rules and laws of trial that have been implemented into this justice system to make it impossible for the accused to defend themselves. Their objective was quite the opposite. They advocated for a fair and impartial and speedy trial. It was never their intention for people to be sitting in jail for years and years waiting to be tried while the state continues to try to gather new evidence against them. This is what our unjustice system has become. Men and women sitting in jail for years and waiting to be heard. The constitutional right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness thwarted.
Lori seemingly blames her conviction on the state of Arizona.
So here we are. The state of Arizona has accomplished its intention. 1, to extradite me from Idaho. 2, to convict me. And 3, to add to my ledger of lifetimes. The state used countless taxpayers' money to transport me, house me, millions of dollars to wrongly convict me on 2 charges that they made sure judicially that I could not defend myself against. I know political aspirations, raises, and job promotions were at stake. So congratulations. I was convicted in the media long before I went to trial. We all know that there was no way for me to come to Arizona and get a fair, impartial, or speedy trial. And now that fact has been proven. The state of Arizona brought me here when I was already serving 5 life sentences. Now I will serve 7 life sentences. Will that be enough? Will that be enough? I want everyone to know that I mourn with all of you. I am sorry for your pain. Losing those close to you is painful, and I acknowledge all of the pain, and I do empathize. I feel it too. If I was accountable for these crimes, I would acknowledge it, and I would let you know how sorry I was. But I have witnessed for myself what it is like to leave this mortal existence and return home when I temporarily died in the hospital giving birth to my daughter, Tylee. When our spirit leaves our body and we return to the pure energy state in the spirit world, we immediately no longer feel hate, anger, envy, or resentment. I promise you. We come to earth to experience these emotions, but these emotions are immediately replaced by a blissful, heightened sense of peace, love, joy, and well-being. I arrived here at MCSO on November 30th, 2023. That is over a year and a half, 20 months specifically. That is over 6 times the amount of time it should have taken for me to have these 2 trials. But Arizona leaves this law up to the judge's discretion, and the judge has the power to extend your trial at his will. Even though the 6th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States proclaims otherwise. 98% of all cases in Maricopa County end in plea deals where the accused plead guilty. And I'll tell you why. It's so miserable in that jail that they plead guilty so they can go to the prison and have decent food, decent sunlight, and a chance to live. 2% of all cases in Maricopa County that actually do go to trial, of all the cases that actually do go to trial, only 0.2 end in acquittal. That is 1 out of 1,200 people who go to trial go home.
That's actually not the correct stat.
Is that a system designed to convict you? The rules of law governing trial assure that.
Now, Judge Boreski, he let Lori finish the rest of her statement before he clarifies a bit of the information she presented to the court.
I will quote Moroni, the great prophet, from Moroni 8:16, and he says, "Behold, I speak with boldness, having authority from God. I fear not what man can do, for perfect love casteth out all fear." And in Ether, Moroni says, "And now, if I have no authority for these things, judge ye. For ye shall know that I have authority when ye shall see me, and we shall stand before God at the last day."
Do you have anything else?
No.
In this day and age where truth seems to matter little to our talking heads on the news and to our politicians, I'm proud that this trial court and through our jury trials, we draw on the collective wisdom of jurors to determine the truth. As I said in my jury instructions to the jury, it is their job to determine the truth. The defendant spent several minutes talking about statistics and being prevented from presenting her side, and that is not the truth. Maricopa County is a court of innovation. We virtually screened hundreds of jurors, and we kicked off jurors from service that had ever even heard of Lori Vallow. So when she says that she couldn't get a fair trial in Maricopa County, that is not the truth.
Then the judge respectfully confronts Lori about the true evil of her crimes that she attempts to disguise under the veil of religion.
You've left a wake of destruction stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. And you have not victimized just a single victim, but many. You've shattered lives, you've undermined trust, you've sowed fear in the hearts of many. I can't imagine what Brandon and his family went through for those months, hiding, Charles's family wondering who's next? Is someone coming for them? Jenny said a lot of the things I was already going to say to you, Brandon. I'll just touch on a couple of them. I had wondered during the trial whether you suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if Alex died as a result of the extraordinary burdens that you placed upon him. No one will ever know. You preyed on the vulnerability of those around you, JJ, Tylee, Alex, Melanie, others. And today I heard about Colby. You specialized in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. You just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison. Eventually, the camera that you seek out so much, the media requests, will lessen over time and you'll fade into obscurity.
After Judge Boreski gets everything off of his chest, he hands down that final sentence.
The court orders you to be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. This sentence would run consecutively to the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho in Fremont County, case number CR 22-21-1624. As to count 1 in CR 001-242-001, it's ordered that you be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. That sentence also, due to the number of victims you've created in the two cases, the immeasurable harm you've inflicted on many, it's ordered that that run consecutive to CR 2021-001-704. Because these sentences are consecutive to one another and consecutive to the Idaho case in which you are currently serving a sentence, you're giving 0 days credit for time served.
So Lori Vallow Daybell, she is sentenced to 2 life sentences in Arizona. She's already serving those 3 life sentences in Idaho. So barring some huge issue on appeal, she will never see the outside of a prison again. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.